Another field where gamification has been implemented and working successfully is business. And companies, startups, entrepreneurs are using gamification designs and processes for various purposes, such as um, real estate, HR, team building, sales, marketing, negotiation, advertising, management, coaching, training. And in terms of effectiveness for services and products, I believe that business owners have come to a common conclusion that gamification is not a trend, but it's a must.
So I thought it would be a good idea to have another interview about gamification. This time I invited Alina. She's also a gamification expert, but with a more business-related background. I thought it would be a good experiment to ask Alina exactly the same questions as I did for in my previous interview about gamification, and I'm going to see what happens. Sometimes I get the impression that I'm staying with the point of view of the individual expert I'm having the interview with, and it may be interesting to have like a second opinion, a second point of view, especially in the case that you have people with so different backgrounds. Victoria had a background in psychology, and in the case of Alina, she has a background more related to business administration. So I thought it would be very valuable to know her thoughts about the same questions I did for Victoria. Okay, so hello Alina, thank you so much for your time. Why don't you tell us something about you?
Hello, and hello to you, and hello to everybody who's listening to us right now. Here are some things about my professional background. I'm a neurolinguistic business and life coach, author, international trainer, and a gamification conceptual designer, also behavioral designer, but also a happiness coach. And sometimes you can read me in the international coaching news. In the last 17 years, I have created and implemented world-class premium NLP business strategies in training and coaching, and that happened both online and offline. And since 2014, I'm a top premium Udemy instructor. Feel free to check my interview in the Udemy live series on YouTube and the Udemy courses I have created for entrepreneurs. Now, as a gamification business strategist and a behavioral designer, I support individuals and companies towards obtaining profit loops and new levels of competitive advantages. What I can say is that I love going into the user experience design, and my own experience is backed up with a level 1 gamification international recognition. I'm 3 times certificated by Kevin Verbach, the Engagement Alliance, and Coursera. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now tell us, what is gamification?
Well, what is gamification? I'm gonna give you a very subjective opinion that gamification is a concept of adding game characteristics. You can call them input to everyday actions to make them more interesting, engaging, fun, even. It gives the end user the freedom, the choice to improve his or her behavior, and it offers support wherever it is implemented. If it's on a gadget, on an application, in e-learning, in conventional learning, in the business environment, or in HR, or in management, sales, or IT, it doesn't matter. So gamification is in fact using typical game elements like point scoring, badges, leaderboards, competition with others, rules of play to other areas of activity, typically as a process to encourage engagement with a product or service usually. It's very easily done and very rewarding um, when it's applied in personal life as well. So whenever we want to change a habit or involve in a new, more positive life activities, we can gamify that. We still have the concept of work and leisure, and well, in gamification, we can level that up with work and fun. And I'm going to tell you why, because it brings better user engagement, better goal setting and achievement. It increases skills and motivation by design, and it always offers a challenging environment. So the user gets rewards, recognition, but also finally it gets accomplishment.
Okay, I see. So from your point of view, the idea is to take processes and add game-related elements to these processes so they become more interesting and also to increase engagement. Is that right?
From my point of view, we need to, as a designer, I'm saying that we have to create these processes. We have to create the design, the whole osmosis, the what and why and how.
Okay, I see. Now tell me some concrete examples of how gamification is used.
Well, when I first started in 2013 to gamify some small things back then, um, I seen that gamification was already implemented in several various fields, but at this moment it's pretty much implemented everywhere. So I'm just going to focus and tell you two, three fields where you can find it and where it's very useful. You can find it in healthcare, and what I want to tell you, it's amazing. I've recently engaged in a project to gamify an app that can identify and help with the biomarkers in neurodegenerative diseases. So designing a gamified support for this kind of app is highly focused on helping behavioral targets and getting results. What I can say very punctually here is that gamification is already present in digital technologies in healthcare. It's in physical fitness, in medical and chronic condition management, in kids and parenting activities for children with affections, in physical therapy and rehabilitation. And the statistics show that the gamified systems uh, like these do offer a real help and support. So another field where gamification has been implemented and working successfully is business. And companies, startups, entrepreneurs are using gamification designs and processes for various purposes, such as real estate, HR, team building, sales, marketing, negotiation, advertising, management, coaching, training. So it's pretty much covered. It pretty much covered every business aspect by now. And in terms of effectiveness for services and products, I believe that business owners have come to a common conclusion that gamification is not a trend, but it's a must. The last thing I want to add here is that gamification has been implemented in formal, non-formal, and informal education worldwide for more than 7 years. And that led to participation, engagement loops, and advocacy. I just wrote today to a friend of mine that was into gamification in 2013. He's from Austria, and he was back then in non-formal education, and he was the first one in Europe to implement gamification in non-formal education, which is amazing. I don't know if he's still doing that. But overall, I I also know that companies have used gamification for formal coaching and training, for also for informal learning activities online and offline. We also had and still have educational practitioners, institutes, colleges that have implemented gamification to boost their learning results and meet their goals, their business or learning goals. So, as you can notice, there was a high demand over the last few years for people that can design these experiences in various fields for the end users to benefit. And that happened because uh, what I believe is that happened because people started to acknowledge the importance of gamifying whatever they were already offering on the market.
Okay, I see. I see gamification is present in basically everywhere, basically all industries, all processes. And as I understand that as everyone is doing it, I have to do it too. It's one of those situations. For example, if I have an app, I necessarily have to gamify all processes within this app. Otherwise, I'm just going to be left behind by my competition. Something like that.
Well, you might not be left behind, but you might not uh, keep your customers as well as others are doing, or engage them as much as others are engaging their own. So you don't, if you don't play with these tools in your own marketing design, promotional design, or selling design, if you don't implement it anywhere, you might be left behind somewhere in terms of productivity, transparency, or whatever in the business field. Yeah.
Okay, okay, I see. Now, in case I have a process I want to gamify, how do I do it? What are the steps?
When I first started this, I've noticed that there were some steps that people were following. We didn't have too much access to gamify design, and the literature out there and the practices were not so well developed. But there are a few gamification design frameworks out there right now, and I have to say that I had to create my own over the years, since I had to develop strategies for implementing gamification in various fields, from smart doorbells to wellness apps such as the movement athlete, where I help them. So what I'm saying is that a gamification designer, in order to gamify something, has to go beyond the typical blueprint in order to design new experiences, and that extra effort is to align with the business objectives that are very different each time, and the vision and the goals for every product and every service, even if it's an app. But I'm gonna disclose to you some steps that I usually follow. First of all, while gamifying something, you have to look into the business goals, just like I was saying, into the needs of that product, that service, what needs does it meet, into the goals, the vision. So you must elicit a clear, neat image of the big picture of what it is expected and to whom it is addressed. It's always important to check the business plan, the business objectives, because everything is in there. From that point, you can start to design the experience so to meet those goals. You just have to chunk up the information, and you get clear guidelines for the experience, the gamified experience. It's just like filling in a structure with color, light, sound. It's already there, but you make it alive, more engaging. So basically, I and designers like me, we're following 6 steps. We define the business objectives, we delineate the target behaviors that we want to implement or to change. We describe our players, our type of players, in terms of making activities for them. We devise these activity loops, and we insert the fun tools, and we deploy the appropriate tools for engagement. What I want to say is that there isn't always a story. Maybe you have heard that in any gamification design, there's a story, like in game design. Well, in gamification, there isn't always a story, because the story creates itself daily by the actions that the end users, the players, are taking within the gamified system. So whatever they're doing in using the gamified product or solution will create their behavioral narrative flow, the improvement, the engagement. Um, so their player journey, as we call it a journey, is enhancing, and it gives them the opportunity to benefit from what we integrate. We integrate the game mechanics and the game dynamics, and I'm sure you've heard about this part of gamification along with aesthetics. But nevertheless, for those of you that don't know, here are some elements of gamification mechanics: points, leaderboards, badges, avatars, virtual goods, skill tests, task timer, quests, level, and more, like boosting the level and so on. And if you don't know the elements for the gamification dynamics, I can just tell you that some of them are competition, constraints, contest, chance, choices, cooperation. So we're building all of this for our users, and they both merge hand in hand with the gamification aesthetics that has to finalize the process and offer the results. And I took the liberty to unveil this aspect for you of the gamification design, but of course the structure is much more complex. And I believe a gamification designer should keep in mind at all times that what we're doing is a human-centered approach to create and offer a new behavioral experience. It's not enough to use some game elements and to think that you have implemented a gamification design. Never. And the best gamify products and solutions out there still have a marketing competitive advantage that lasts. Um, Monetizing on a persistent gamified product or service for a long period of time surely means it had an excellent engagement design.
Okay, and I really like what you say about it all starts with business goals, and then you hire a gamification expert or someone who is an expert in the field to gamify all processes that need to be gamified. And about the different elements, you say something about having specific elements, for example, a leaderboard, and you mention a few more. And then you have the context where these elements interact. That, for example, it will be a competition. But you have specific elements, and then you have the context where these elements interact. I think that's interesting. Okay, now what can you tell me about the psychology behind gamification? How does it work?
When I first got in contact with gamification in my gamification course years ago, I've noticed many elements were um, aligning with many things I knew from neuro-linguistic programming, but they were called differently. Just to give you an example, in gamification, we call it the magic circle when a user gets into the engagement loops and comes again and again to rewrite his story, his journey, to more simply said is when a user uses the application or the product or the service each day, that means engagement. Well, in neuro-linguistic programming, we have created an anchor point, an anchoring point. We call it engagement loop in gamification. Anyway, it's simple, minimalistic even, because gamification works by itself and it connects the product, the service to the end user needs. It is designed like that, and it's rewarding for the both sides, for the business owners and for the end users. Because let's let's have a look back. And I want to tell you, because I've been working in the business field, and I can tell you that meeting the needs of our customers has never been focused so much on their actual behavior while interacting with the product or with the service. And now even an artificial intelligence software can gather data of the client satisfaction while using a gamified application or service. Or it can even analyze the end user's behavior. So it's a simple psychology beyond the gamification processes, beyond the design and why it's working. You just have to design an experience to a great experience to allow the users to engage, experience, and fulfill their needs. You have to enable them to master the experience itself. The gamified solutions offer the user a sense of self gratitude, of self improvement, along with fulfillment and achievement through fun and motivation. And a better self is supported through any gamified system. Behind any gamified design, there is a well planned behavioral change for improvement. I have discovered that in 2013, while delivering the first webinar in the world on gamification and how it relates to neuro linguistic programming strategies, tools, and techniques. So, while using a gamification product or service, a user, the player, how we call it, creates a cognitive contract with himself to go through this experience and to improve his personal or professional life, mastering his own life. And why wouldn't he or she be rewarded for that and supported? That's why gamification is taking huge proportions, because it helps us befriend ourselves.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for everything, Alina. Everything has been great. Is there any final comments you would like to add?
Well, I'm all over the internet right now. I'm gonna become less visible in the following months, but people know where to find me, and I'm always there to help.
Thank you, Alina, and that's going to be all for me. So thank you.